Hello. Are we live? Looks like it. Right, let's give this a share. And yeah, we'll get into it. Back at it again. Nothing can stop us. We're going to be doing a bit of refactoring today. And for people who don't know, that just means organizing code. I think a large part of what the bug was yesterday is the fact that I'm making mistakes due to the fact that things aren't in a good state. Things are a bit messy. I also just want to be a bit more chill today. Not really in the... I don't want to be doing some super hardcore stuff. I also am going to... limit... I know it seems a bit silly, but I'd rather... Alright, just say hello to everyone first. Hello. I'd rather not today talk about AI, if that's okay. Well, other people can say what they want in the chat, but I'd rather not give my opinions on AI today. I don't want to turn into a professional opinion haver. I'm just going to pin that message. Oops. I said the wrong thing in the chat. I'd rather not talk about AI today. And let's actually say what I wanted to say. And pin that. So, right. That's just for my own sanity. So I haven't done much today. So yes, we are going to break out our IDE and start debugging stuff. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. So, yes, the goal of today is basically to push, to have a branch, or to basically organize all this code. At the moment, I've been neglecting organizing stuff, and we've got stuff all over the place. Like, this is probably the worst code going on. I really need to think about how to pair collision detection stuff with something that I want to render. It's not always the case that I want to have every single thing have a piece of collision, like a rigid body. So that is going to be the main thing today, and also hopefully it will reduce the amount of errors I keep making by abstracting some of the stuff away and stuff like that. So that's the goal of today's stream. I hope that's good for everyone. Well, currently, I still have that bug from yesterday, and it is just recompiling. Grab my drink. But yes, this bug is coming about because I haven't refactored stuff properly, and it's starting to come back to bite me. So I'd rather not have to git stash over and over again and try and return to baseline. I'm not sure how long I'll stream today. It's probably going to be my shorter stream. Hopefully that's cool and chill. Might be even just half an hour, but you know, we do what we can. So yeah, let's dive into it. And yeah, So, the first question is, okay, let's try and fix what we were doing prior, right? Because that doesn't work. Even if I restore back to baseline, things don't work, which makes me almost want to go back to commits. That might be a good idea. let me just go into my GitHub and see what I did. And so this is my project that should be linked below. I'm currently working in the space branch, and I'm 18 commits ahead of master. And so what did I do here that potentially broke stuff? What branch is this in? Yeah, this is master. Go to space. Yes, go to that. What? I think I clicked on the... I'm still used to GitLab. I've used GitLab a lot more than I've used GitHub. I thought that would be a very simple look at your Git history. Let's try that again. Okay. I think, yeah, okay, this is what I wanted to see. Prepped. Okay, so what happened here? So how long ago was this? I said 2 days ago. Okay. Because what I ended up doing is pushing too much, I think, too quickly. Yep. And so I'm probably going to restore some stuff that we did, then start refactoring things. Just realized I need to shuffle that. So yeah, I'm just gonna look for look for my Git history and see what I did. So here's the potential mistake. Hello, I'll call you. How you doing? Hope you're having a good weekend so far, anyway. So this stream's going to be a bit more chilled out. We're just going to be doing a bit of refactoring on the code that I keep complaining about. So I'm just looking through my Git history just to make sure that I haven't made a mistake in pushing something. That's interesting. Okay. Hang on. If I'm using entity data.size, that might be the mistake. If I'm deleting an array and then trying to use it, entity data. What did I shut down? Entity data. Okay. Entity data. I want to match. Okay, it's not really important if it matches case. There's only one instance. So yep. And okay, no, it's we shut it down at the right time. Okay, cool. 5,000. We have GPU data. We might even do a bit of working on our allocation buffer. Some of the buffer allocations that I'm doing aren't efficient, so I'm going to try and fix that as well if I get around to it. So that might require me to load the which one is it? The second one. So we have a link from Ratchet, and I think this is something I should be being very careful with, because the way I've done the mappings aren't very good. That effectively there are better ways of doing it, and when you're communicating between the graphics card and the CPU, if your allocations between the two aren't very don't match up very well, you end up with a situation where you end up with a poor performance. So so we're going to try and figure out that today. Alright, let's just keep stepping back. So I think we can safely step back to that commit. There's nothing in here that's going to cause an error. So we're just going to grab this and just see if this works, and if it doesn't, then we know that I broke it earlier. I don't think it needs to do like a binary search to figure out what's going on, but if I can set up something, have a baseline that we can check against, then that'll be really, really handy. Now I doubt I need to rebuild anything, but I reconfigure, but I obviously need to rebuild. So let's see. We'll see what it wants to do. Okay, let's have a look. Right, let me just do a sanity check on my assets. It's possible that my asset, I've saved out rock as model, if that makes sense. It's not something I thought about yesterday. Rock, what's rock look like? Okay, that makes sense. So that's why things aren't working. So this should be a rock. It is not. It is a duck in a ball, which is makes a lot of sense. Okay, what's this? Okay, the same thing. This is me not understanding how Blender works, causing me issues. I believe this is a duck. Okay, and yeah, okay, so we need to we need to fix that. Do I still have that? It's probably unlikely. Oh, I do, thank goodness. Let's just make sure. Thank goodness I'm too lazy and don't delete things. Okay, so that explains a lot. It's nothing to do with our code. It's to do with me overriding my assets that I shouldn't have with Blender, which is not good. Very easy, simple fix though. Always do sanity checks to anyone who's learning how to code. A sanity check is just challenging your assumptions. So, for example, if you think a file's not being compiled, you'll see me do this sometimes. If you see nothing changing, just, you know, throw in a bunch of random gibberish and see if that breaks the file. Sanity check. That was a sanity check I did. I checked the file that I'm loading, making sure that it was valid, and it wasn't valid. So, we should now get everything kind of rendering properly. Yep. Yep. The next thing I should check is when I'm debugging. Is this correct? Or is this a duck in a circle? Okay, no, that is a sphere. Very good. Sanity check. And that likely means that I can check out space, which is the latest. Check out the branch without any issue. And yep. Give that a build. And then I'll fix some of the things and we'll start refactoring. Okay. Yes. Right, so it looked like the collision stuff we were doing was also trying to render the duck. That's why we had two draw calls. Okay, so the first thing I can do very, very quickly is for the final time, I'll never do this again, I swear. Change this from 12 to 4 again, but we're not. I'm going to commit today no matter what. So the goal of today is to get rid of some of the hacky code, so I make less mistakes. I'm going to say a more not serious stream, but like when I want to do a big refactor, it's nice to have a cleaner baseline. And the next thing I want us to do is remove this for loop. This for loop, when I'm rendering the colliders, is always going to be... We're always going to have one draw call. Maybe I should assert. I should likely assert, yeah, maybe. So let's oops. What do I want to do? I want to say this needs to be equal. It needs to be false for it to not, yeah, equal to 1. And then say one minute. I will reach out in a second. Oops. Met. Mesh. Collision. Collider geometry should be. Should have one draw call. So if that triggers, I don't know why. And because we're doing that, we've kind of like reduced the amount of CPU overhead here. It's not a crazy amount, don't get me wrong, but 0 is fine, I guess. So Claude 4.3 acts like a human. One guy wrote, let's 2x app. It said your idea is shit, forget about it. Okay. If someone says I'm shit or whatever, I don't mind. It is what it is. I don't know if that was reference to me or someone else. Whatever. But yeah, today I'm not gonna try and give my opinion on AI. I feel like I do that. I've been doing that every stream, almost. I'm not an AI researcher. I'm not an AI expert. I don't know much about AI. I literally just don't have anything to say about it. So one guy wrote, let's do X app. It's, oh, I see, understand. I understand. Not referencing me. Yes, okay, yes. Yes, thanks for clarifying. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. I was thinking, like, people even know what who I am, you know? But there we go. Anyway, right, so we've moved that. We should now have a draw call. Sorry. It should be all the same thing. Yep. Very nice. So effectively, we're going to see the scene over and over again, but we're going to try and reduce the complexity. Yeah, that is quite funny. Yeah. Bit of a meme template, that, isn't it? Right, so what I want to do is also what I've done before, just rename things as well. That's also part of the refactor. So skybox pipeline. Oh, hang on. That was a bit careless. Creation. And make this creation here, and we should be good. So that'll make it so it makes sense what's going on. Now the question is, do I want to abstract this out and kind of put this into its own function? Because at this point we're getting like the same same thing over and over again. Interestingly, we set the depth in the scene, but not for the skybox. No. Do we need the... No, we turned off depth. For the skybox. It doesn't even work. That's fine. So, yeah, this is going to be me just trying to puzzle through what I want to do. Because we're getting a lot of... It's not duplicated code, really. It's just... would I end up in a situation where... I'm just trying to think, like, how would I abstract this out if I wanted to write this in its own function? I mean, I could do that. Let me just chew on this a little bit, because there's differences between these guys. Like this has no, this is a bindless version. This isn't a bindless version. Oops. Just realized something. My message is... Hang on. I pinned a message with a grammar mistake in. Let's try that again. Sorry about this. I'd rather not talk about AI. Okay, so finally. Jeez. Okay, sorry. Dyslexia coming in clutch once again to make a mess of things. Is it a good idea to read game engine architectures along with Vulkan? You talking about the book? Game engine architecture is about... I think it's over 1,000 pages. It's quite a big book. What you're going to get with game engine architecture is you're going to get familiar with a lot of parts of game engines that people don't consider. Like, for example, I read the chapter on internationalization and how to handle strings. Now, that's really, really good stuff. But it might be irrelevant if you're going to only release your game in English. So, it's top level stuff. Yeah, the new one is 1,500 pages. But like I think you already know this. It's like a high level overview. So I would say you want to get better as a programmer. You want to get better as an engineer. What would I do if I was in your shoes? If I'd ponder this for a minute. So the reason, okay, so Kalia, I'll just say this just so you know. The reason that I spend a lot of time on graphics and a lot of other people spend a lot of time on graphics is because typically, on average, 60% of the frame, you know, the amount of time that you have in like that 60 frames per second, so like that 0.16 milliseconds time frame, 60% of that is usually taken up by rendering. So no matter what you do, no matter how efficient you get, you end up having to spend a lot of time on rendering. The rest of, like, then you have like the rest, which is mostly to do with like collision detection and simulation. And then a fraction left is handling user input. So you could hopefully that gives you like an idea of what's important when it comes to 3D. Like this changes with 2D. It's a little different. Now people may say, well, I have like thousands of entities flying around that need to be updated to update the world. It's like, well, you also have to render those things, and that typically takes longer. So when I started out, I started learning physics, and I later realized that was like a bit of it wasn't a mistake, it was still useful, but I would have had a better time spending more times on graphics. That's why I spend so much time studying graphics on and off stream. So I would say for you, I would personally do both. I know it's a long way of saying it, but I hope I've given you like a framework of what should you make a priority. So if 60% of the frame is going to be spent doing graphics, then you probably should spend a good amount of time on graphics. So let's just say you get caught up in a book and you're getting really, again, you're getting stuck on like internationalization, or maybe you're getting stuck on like how to structure an algorithm to optimize memory. It's like, I don't know, that might not be as useful as like spending time on graphics. So hopefully that's yeah, graphics number one then. Yeah, I would say if you're gonna do Vulkan, learn Vulkan, and then a second priority, go over what is it called? Game engine architecture. That's what I would do if I was in your shoes. That's what I'm technically still doing, to be honest. I'm still doing that. Like I study operating system stuff to get better at programming, but most of the time it's graphics, just because of that. Yeah, I wish someone told me that when I started. I literally I spent so long learning physics when I really should have been doing graphics when I was starting out, when I was new. Okay. Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah, great question, by the way. Great question. I appreciate that type of question. Right, so we have a couple of things here. We have entity data, which entity data. Let me just chew through. So that all this is position and you're the lucky one then. Yes, you get to benefit from my mistakes, which it's top stuff. You know, if I made a mistake and it helps someone out, yeah, I'm glad I made the mistake. So position index and model index. So entity data. Okay, so the position index is indexing into this. So we're referencing this array with this index. I wonder if I should store these kind of like in a larger structure. So I have, let's just say, right, I'm going to open up another Visual Studios just so I can just write stuff really quickly. Nebula, where are you? Yes, this is my this is my testing for testing stuff where I write stuff to test. So my idea is, so I have, let's pretend we have our own, but I'm going to use vector for now. Let's write in main, as you do, and let's hash out the architecture in a simple project. So we have at the moment entity data, debug data. We don't care about that at the moment. That's just passing over to the GPU. So struct entity data, which has a float. So position. So that it has a matrix. Oops. And we have a color, which is like this, and what else do we have? So we have entity data. What's entities? That's the other question. So when I say entities, what struct am I referring to? Okay, so entity is this, which I think we can kind of reference in, obviously this won't work. Oh, these work? Okay, that's good. Let's go with an enum for now. Is that a good idea? Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Enum body. This is just to test stuff. So, let's say body ID. I know this isn't how the render, the physics engine works at all, but we're gonna kind of roll with it. Box, sphere, and I don't know, cylinder. Okay. Right, that will do. Box ID is body ID is body ID, and that's equal to box. It's equal to sphere for now. Okay, so how do we tie these together? Oh, we have a model ID. Let me grab this, and we have model matrix, which is another struct, which comes from not verses. It'll be mesh draw. Which one is it? Oh, okay. So it's a wider struct. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna put nothing in it for now and just say we have a struct model, and yeah, let's put at least some of the stuff in. So that'll be model inverse model. So model inverse, and yeah, I'm just gonna say that's fine for now. So at the moment we have an array of all three. So you have entity. Oops, my bad. Half writing some code, forgetting what I'm doing. Entity, and we call this entities. And then when I do this, I go push. Let's make a list. Uint32, because I can do that. And I don't know, let's just say we have 10. I might make a constant here. Const constant expression, so it can work this out at compile time. Uint32, 32-bit integer. Total entities. Let's do caps. Total entities equals 10. The reason that I want to do this is I might want to reuse this variable, and I'll make less mistakes in this example code if I do that. Okay, so we're going to make an entity, new entity here. I'm going to put it on the stack and then just copy it in. I don't think we need to be concerned with anything to do with deep copy, shallow copy. I really don't care. We're not really interested in the contents of the data. So if it's technically, we can actually construct this in place, I think. Yep. Okay, so we're constructing that in place. Actually, I changed my mind because the whole point of doing this is so I can set the model index. Oops. We just basically need to set the model index, and I'd rather do it very explicitly, so I maximize the amount of clarity in my code. Position index. So these are often tied together, so there's no. This is actually how it works in my code. All right, so we have 10 of these. These reference these, and that would mean I have to construct kind of like an array of model and entity data, which is poorly named. This is why we're doing this, so we can actually see everything. And these are separate arrays. I will put the... Yes, they could all be in the same for loop. I am aware, but at the moment I might change the for loops around. So we've got a redefinition of names here, which is fixable very easily. So we have models, and we have entity data. Cool, and we want this to stay the same. This is where I'm going to actually cheat a little bit with this. So model is just going to have that. I don't know what this is, just junk data. Throw this in here. Do that. Get rid of all this junk. And okay. So when we want to index something, I wonder if I could. Probably not. Right, I'm just going to add a piece of dummy data here, so it can actually do something. Let me just think about how to use this dummy data in a way it makes sense. Okay, I might end up having to write more code than I want to, but that's fine. Void set position. So this is just going to take in the uint32 data, no position, pos, and then I'm just basically going to set every element of this to a value. And I think there's probably a really smart way of doing this with C++ new features, but I'm just going to be going to do it the laziest way. So yeah, you're going to have to excuse this little bit of hacky code here. But this is just so I can actually read in data into this position or whatever. And it's still kind of, we can tell them apart. Otherwise, if it's all just junk data and I don't want to display it or something, like it'll be very hard to display it if so position I j is equal to j. So that's it basic. No, is equal to pos. We want it to all be the same value. Because I'm not entirely sure if I can just assign this just straight up like. I wonder if I could. Hang on. Test. This is more experimenting. Equals. Can I just construct this, and then just go test. Because it's position equals test, right? No. No, I didn't think so. I think I would need to define some kind of extra data structure here. So, and we're going to do the same for model. Set model. Again, this is just old junk. Nothing interesting here. Now we can actually, so I can investigate like element 0, 0, and it'll have something in there that actually makes sense. So when I go into here, oh, jeez, something spooked me then. New model. We can then construct this set model. You got I. Same deal. Actually, there's no point doing that. Now we need to put this in. Again, this might be complete overkill, but if I don't do this and I regret it, then we're gonna make set position I. Okay, so now we have data that I can actually investigate. I'll leave the other one alone, because what we end up doing effectively is we go in here, final loop. So this is the draw. We say unit 32. Entity index equals 0. Entity index is less than the size of entities. And there we go. And then we break into entities. And then, oops, index, sorry. Entity index, model index, that gives us the model index. So I'm just going to say uint32 t model index equals this. Then we can very quickly, let's do include IO stream for now. Standard count and end line. Then we go models, model index, and then we take that element. So we'll separate this. I mean, it's effectively the same thing, but I kind of don't want it to. Let's just take the first element, and so that will print. That's how my data is structured at the moment, and we should get, hopefully, if I've written this right, this model index. I should yeah, okay, so model index, let's just see what happens. And we've got hex values. Did they increment there? Yep, that seems good. I don't know exactly why we didn't get a float, but we did increment because we were moving through an entity index, which was, yeah. And is that because I set up something to display in hex? Let me just do a sanity check. Sanity check. I can't remember if I forced this to display in hexadecimal or something. Entering main begin main loop. Okay. I know. We also need to test that we're printing a value. And I'm going to make this a float. This is just 2.1, right? So to test goes in here, and that should be entering main loop with a number. Okay, so 0.1. Cool. That's all good. So it is doing normal things. So what do we? That's what I missed. That's the mistake I made. So I was printing out the pointer. I wasn't printing out the actual value, because this is a multi-dimensional array. but that's correct. That's what I want to see. It has data in. Okay. So the question is, when do these tie together? Because here's the issue I have. Entity data, which is a bad name, is the no, entity position model. Oh no, this is actually all good. But not all entities have a object, which is the thing I think I need to think about. Let me think. Let's change the song. I do love the song though. My favorite song of all time, but I don't want to give people who are watching ear fatigue of listening to the same song. Right, okay, so entity data. Now my question is, an entity always has a model and it always has position, and in my case it always has color as well, which is completely chill. So when I look at my code, what do I want to couple together? There's something else I'm missing. It's the debug data. That's the one I'm missing. Debug data for the debug renderer. Yeah, because we have a struct, and so this is fine. These are all. This is how I want things to be. I want them to be. We want to have multiple arrays. We want arrays of structs. Arrays of structs. Yes. Okay, so I'm just gonna say we're just gonna have a value that just says the color, because I can't be bothered writing anything else. You know, I'll just have an enum actually. Even better, so it's even clearer. So this is just debug renderer color. So we can get rid of this and do red, blue, yellow, right? If we have this in here, then we can just say current color is equal to red. Leave that as that for now. So not all entities have. Do all? So this only happens. We only have a debug. We only have debug data when we're rendering a. What am I doing, bro? I had to study disciplined. I'm refactoring my code for my game engine at the moment. It's in this state where I keep making little mistakes. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So I'm trying to debug some rendering stuff. That's what this sphere is about. But because I've let my code kind of grow all snaggily, I guess, by just throwing stuff in over and over again, I need to refactor. So in this project, I'm just kind of building a very simple version of what I've got in that engine, and kind of trying to think through the way the entities and the debug renderer are handled together, because not all entities have collision, and therefore they don't need to necessarily have to have a debug renderer component to them. Hopefully that clears stuff up. Yeah, and thanks for checking us out, by the way. I hope you're having a great weekend. Whatever you're doing. So yeah, let's... so I think it's a mistake to give an entity a body ID, right? So I think there should be a state where we have a non. Like, non or something. The reason that we want a non is because we want to assume that an entity doesn't have any collision until we assign it anything. If this is none, then it doesn't have debug data. So this all makes sense. We've had arrays of structs built up for their entities. We obviously want like a meta. We want to abstract some of this out. Abstract this out. We have this in my code as well, so I just need to make like what I'll do for now is set this in its own code block, and we'll do this. And next step is to build another array of stuff, which is our debug rendering. So this entity, I think what I'm going to do is build another array and say debug index equals. Here's a little trick for you guys. What I'm doing here is I'm saying this is an unsigned 0, so this is effectively this is what the U means, like for 32 bits, and then this little tilde here is inverting everything. It's an invert operator, so it basically changes to the biggest unsigned 32-bit integer. Bit of useful stuff, and this is a great way if you're using indices to index into data, to effectively have an invalid index be the largest possible 32-bit number. So it's very unlikely that I'm going to have an array that exceeds the size of a 32-bit integer, so it's a good way to compare. I want to have one piece of collision data. Oops. I'm going to change that to debug renderer data. Yes, we're not going to... That's its own thing. We want to say we have one collider. Let me just look at the collider, see if there's any collider code. Collider. Where are my colliders? So then my collider vertices, which is fine, but how do I know how many physics objects I have? Because that's the actual thing I need to worry about. So if I have 50 collision objects that all have different position, I could have 10,000 models to draw, but only 50 objects that are going to be added to the simulation. So we need to figure out the next step, which is position. What is in this? Does this have the... So this has the position and the model of the geometry we're going to draw. I think we've kind of tied the collision, the debug renderer, and the, what is it called, the collision detection objects together. Here implicitly. It's not something I thought about, but I think that's what's happened. So we have, yeah, this should be named something else. Let me think. Well, okay, this is the position. That's the rigid body's position. Right, let's rename stuff. Rigid body position. It's obviously going to break code, but we have the global. We have the rigid body model, because that's what that is. It's not the model of the thing we're rendering, necessarily speaking. And we have the view projection, which we can't get around. We need the view projection. And yeah. These can be the same. The position and these two can be the same. But not necessarily. We can have an entity that has a position. I think all entity needs position. But the rigid body position is only applied to rigid body simulation stuff, which is different than the position of something that we're going to render on the screen. They're not always the same. Okay. Great. Let's change this. Rigid body. Oops. And this is the rigid body model. So this comes from the actual physics engine. Otherwise, we'll end up rendering something that's basically the same size as the thing we're drawing, and the whole point is to render at the moment the whole point right now is to render the rigid bodies themselves. And where's the error? Okay. Which isn't the same. Interesting, we're getting the same song twice. Let's go next. I think it's just randomness. Okay, we got expander twice. Are we going to get the same song again? Okay. I don't think it's very random when you get the same two songs over and over again. I mean, it's possible, but let's put the shuffle on. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Got something different. Yeah, third times. I don't get it. I think there's a comic I saw. There's an XQC comic. It's like they walk past a frog and they say, "This is our magic frog number generator," and it keeps saying 5 over and over again. And and they walk past it and go, "We at least think it's random. We're not sure." I mean, technically you can get 5 over and over again in a random sequence, but can you be sure it's just not broken? I thought that was quite funny when I saw that. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Right, so what were we doing? We were okay, so we renamed stuff because I've made some assumptions here that the debug renderer always renders. I think that's fine, but we just have to be aware this is the debug renderer is tied here to the physics, which may not be what I want to do in the future. But for now, I think it's okay. I just have to tell myself that, like, to do. I'll be aware, I guess. Where? Right, so where the debug renderer is tightly... do I want to break this up already? It just makes things a bit complicated. Okay, I'll leave it now because I don't want to complicate things yet. Coupled, the renderer, the debug renderer will only render colliders. No. Sorry, I'm going to change this back. The reason is the model and the position don't have to be rigid bodies. Yeah, that's actually true. If that's the case, then yes, that structure is inferring that we can only use rigid body simulation stuff, use this struct to render rigid bodies, but that's not true. Model, yes, okay. So, yeah, this is refactoring, folks. It's one of these things where you have to think. Now, an entity has a debug index. So I need to be able to index into this for a given entity, I think. Yes. And I also need to debug index, debug renderer index. Oop, 1 second. Let me just put, just gotta plug in my laptop where my chat is. Okay, so let's do uint day2 max, because we already established that not all entities will have a debug renderer component to them. So the debug renderer is going to be smaller, and every time we create an entity, we also need to so we need to create the entities last, because they need to have the components set. Sorry, their indices set, and then we index into arrays. And we should then have an entity that kind of controls what array index it has access to and what data is in that index. Sounds good to me, but I think I've made the entities first, because that's what I started with. This, I'm going to rename this debug data. Debug renderer data, because that's what it is. It's a renderer. It's the renderer data. It's not just random debug data. And I'll change all this in a minute, but what I'm eventually going to do is move the debug renderer out of here and kind of have it in its own class, I think. So we can actually build up this structure a little cleaner. Because right now, we're just kind of building an array just right on here. So anyway, so the colliders need to be built first. So let's move the colliders around. So this is the colliders. Yep, this is the collider code. That's fine there. That's nothing to do with the colliders. So entities. Where's the array for that? So that needs to be moved. Oh, hang on. Why am I doing entities? Oh, body ID. Right, yeah, we need to get rid of that. Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. where should I put this body ID then? So we already have debug rendering stuff that we need to index into, which is pure stuff that we copy over to the GPU. This can have other stuff in. There's no reason it doesn't have to have stuff in. Is there a non? Yes, perfect. That's exactly what I needed to see. Okay, so we can also JPH body ID invalid body. No? Is this private? Right. Oh, it's the object itself. Yeah, it's not a number. It is an object. So I'm trying to assign an object. So I need to construct it with an invalid. Like this. Paste it in. Obviously get rid of the equal sign. Right, so the default constructor will take care of that, I think. So if I open up this, I am running this constructed. So the ID is this. I'm not sure if this will error out, but I do want to set it to an invalid ID, so I don't necessarily. I'm effectively telling if this works. If this is max body. I mean, it's not that much. How big is this object? It's tiny. Let's see. Okay, so it's. Oh, it's 4 bytes in size. Yeah, who cares? This is like the size of an integer, with a bunch of pointers to functions and that. So, yeah, we're just going to ignore this. There's no reason not to leave that around because the entity class is tiny. Yeah, it's size 16. We've ordered them, 4 times 4. Cool. The entity index is still useful because we need to index into our own debug renderer entity index. So, yeah. Entities. The problem is, though, let me think. If I create the debug render stuff, ideally this would be in here. Not the position. So the model needs to be. Okay, let's fix that first. What would the position be? So based on the body ID, we need to get the transform out. No, physics interface. Body interface. Get transform. Body ID. So we do that. And then that gives us the position. That gives us the position? Yes. What gives us the model? Is it just this times scale? Not sure, not sure. I think we looked at this yesterday, didn't we? Oh yeah, this needs to be position again. We need... I think the position is literally just times scale. Do I stream every day? I have been so far. I don't really have a set schedule, but yeah, I've been streaming... how many days in a row now? I think it's been 15 days in a row. I might not stream on the weekend. Sometimes the weekend will not be possible to stream on. But if I can stream, I will try to. That's the goal anyway. While I'm looking for jobs and stuff, it's I think it's a good practice to get into, just to be disciplined. It is helping me be, you know, out off stream. Great. Any streamers like me, Vulkan is C++. Yep. We're being strict. Yeah, we definitely looked at this yesterday. There's something like get scale or something. What was it? We looked at the sphere. This might be 2 days ago, actually. This was in the geometry code of the Jolt engine. Let me look at that for a minute. Geometry. If I look at the sphere, which was the biggest giveaway. Where's S? Sphere. It calculates... how does it calculate? Oh yeah, I need to go to the... This was render sphere and debug renderer, which is different. Okay, so... yeah, I need to bring up the debug renderer. Most people do OpenGL. Yeah, I'm surprised it's still that popular, but... I don't really know. Ah, is it perfect, perfect, perfect. S-transform, which is just the center. S-translate. That's actually what we need to be doing. So that gives us the model of a sphere. Whoops, what am I doing? Yes, I remember it was something scale. Not related for you. Yeah, ditto. It's... yeah, I don't know why people use OpenGL. It's one of them. It's not like it's a bad or anything. It's just... I don't know what the motivation is. Vulkan sucks, maybe? I don't know. No. Right, so we need to do this. Translate in center radius is the actual thing. What's in center? That's just a vector. I think that's just a position. So if I can just get the position, not the transform, get position times by scale. Wait, what is this? This returns a vec3. And we take this. Like this. And do S scale. Radius, which I think we have access to. Get radius. Right. Oh, we need JPH. And that should be our model. So, mat JPH mat4 and sphere model. Yep. And I'll duplicate this. Again, we're going to refactor this in a minute, but I just need to be able to get the data in. Sorry, converts. 1. Sphere shape 1. When they hear Vulkan, they get stressed. I know 2 people who do Vulkan. The other guy said it takes 6 months to get into Vulkan. If you come from OpenGL and you move to Vulkan, I think that makes sense. I think what he's talking about there is not necessarily it takes 6 months to learn the basics of Vulkan. It probably took him 6 months to take his OpenGL renderer and then convert it to Vulkan, which is a different task than just just learning Vulkan. If you start with Vulkan, like you don't have that baggage. That's what I would guess he was talking about there. Because yeah, it is tricky. If you're used to like one way of coding and then you have to do completely different without losing performance, that's kind of a tricky thing to do. But if you start with Vulkan, the stuff that you learn is kind of just like what you do anyway, so it's not like a big deal. You know, you just do things the way the Vulkan API tells you to do it. Which I think there's a benefit. I think that's why if you want to learn Vulkan, I do not recommend learning OpenGL first. It's not a good idea in my opinion. Get world transform. I think that gives us the position, but we need to convert this. Which is what we take anyway. So this will eventually build us up. So I think actually... Okay, it didn't like that. It's probably like a constant reference return or something. Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah, I can imagine. Like I learned OpenGL, and then I was, like I said, I've been very inconsistent over the years, so I kind of like forgot everything, which is almost a blessing in disguise almost. I don't recommend doing that either, to be honest. You know, be careful. Yeah, be consistent as possible. It honestly really, really helps. And sphere 1, so that gives us the position and that gives us the model based on the sphere. So according to the renderer, it renders it like this. I assume, yeah, in center. What would that mean apart from the position of the model? X, the scale radius, and then we just multiply them together in the shaders. And although it's funny with Vulkan, I haven't actually done much Vulkan on stream. I feel like I'm debugging physics and stuff. I found a book called Vulkan Programming Guide by Sellers. When you're looking at Vulkan, by the way, just check the year for a book anyway. Just check the year it's published. You want to be, if you're making a render for desktop, you don't want to be stuck with Vulkan 1.1 or 1.0, because you'll be having to learn stuff that people don't use anymore. It's a bit annoying when you find that out, but Vulkan's been around for I think 10 years plus at this point. So there's stuff in Vulkan that we don't need to do anymore, which a big one for GPUs that are on desktop GPUs is render passes. And that they will teach you about that if you get an old tutorial or an old book. You want to be doing something called dynamic rendering. 2016, yeah. It's probably, I think I know which one you're talking about. I think it's too old if you're going to be doing a modern Vulkan GPU. Sorry, a modern Vulkan renderer. That book will be good for anyone who is using... anyone who wants to write a Vulkan renderer for mobile. If your goal is to target mobile phones, Vulkan support for mobile phones is very not as well. It doesn't. If you want to support like a a load of phones to target your 3D app or whatever, you need to target like old Vulkan. And learning like how to do it like it was in 1.1 and 1.0 is likely a really good idea if you're using mobile phones. But if you're not using mobile phones and you're targeting like modern GPUs, yeah, almost all of them support Vulkan 1.4 at this point, so assuming that they've updated the driver. So you don't want to be learning like old school stuff, dynamic rendering. Old school stuff like render passes. You do want to learn dynamic rendering. And that's just one thing. That's one thing out of a few that you don't want to that you want to learn versus the older way of doing things. Yep, I think I almost bought that book. I think that's a new one. It's like a yeah. It's uses 1.3. It's 2025. I think that's likely a very good one. But a cookbook. Do you know what a cookbook is before you buy that? Because they're different again. Cookbooks are fine. I'll just say it. A cookbook, if you don't know, is just a sub-chapter will tell you how to do one thing. And it's not necessarily going to build on the previous chapters. So it's like, here's a really basic framework. Here's how you do a skybox. Okay, and I'll go back to the framework again. Here's how you do shadows. It'll render one cube and do a shadow. And then it'll go back. So it won't be like, here's a full scene. Here's a full 3D scene or whatever. Still very useful, by the way. It's like I know how to do this now. I know how to render shadows, for example. Because I read it in the cookbook. But if you're familiar, if you know what that is, then you'll be fine. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is build up the entities bit by bit. I think that's the best idea. So I'm going to have the entities first. And, oh yeah, we need total docs, which needs to be renamed. Where's total docs gone? Oh, it's the wrong place. It's here. So, if you go on... I think it's OGL Dev on YouTube. Let me just get on it. Whoops. I do recommend this guy as well. If YouTube would load. OGL Dev, I think. His channel is basically explaining that book that you've just the older version of the book and the newer version of the book. So if you want like to buy that book, this is like a good channel to pair it with because he kind of basically goes over the same stuff. I'll actually post that in chat. Let me get it up for you. Because I would love you to be a successful graphics programmer. Kalia, you know. So there's no... I don't mind pausing stream for a minute. For anyone who's interested in graphics programming. Like... Beats talking about AI at least. Yes. YouTube... I want the whole... Why is the URL just youtube.com? I'll do it on this laptop then. This computer. You probably already have it by now. Never mind. Copy link. Go to live stream. There you go. There you go. That's what I wanted to do. That was extremely painful on my other computer. Okay, let's bring up the chat again because I lost the chat. And Let that load. Hopefully it comes back. Yep. Go back to live. Yeah. So yeah, very good channels to pair with that. But again, if he talks about render passes in that YouTube channel, just kind of take it with a grain of salt. Kind of take it as something that's interesting to learn, but not necessarily needed. Okay, so entity data. Should I call this entity data? I don't know. Debug renderer, total colliders. Let's call this debug renderer data, so it's clearer what's going on here. Sure. That actually worked out. I did actually want to do that. I did want to put render and everything, so that's actually really good. And yeah. But yeah, you're doing the right thing, Kalia, by holding off on using Vulkan immediately if you're getting familiar with C++ is the way forward, or whatever language you're using. You know, it doesn't. You know, anyone else who's watching, if you are in the same boat, learning your language really well, then learning the Vulkan will be. You'll thank yourself in the future. Because you won't get stuck on your language being a pain in the neck. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is, for each entity index that we have, we need to set the entities 0 dot equals 0. And then once I've done this, then I can start making it debug renderer index 1. So when I want to render the models, the problem is we have a different graphics pipeline for this. Let me think. Push constants. So I want to be indexing into this properly. So our entity wants to be driving what we index into. So for example, this is not what I want to be doing. But now we have an entity index that comes from debug data, which is the okay, so what I think I want to do is I'm going to take this. We're going to loop through all the okay, so this is a poorly named struct at this point. Entity data, total entities. What I want actually is right. I'm gonna change the name from total ducts because that's really confusing me. I think we just need to have one. This is total entities. This is the total number of entities in the scene. I mean, I kind of like the idea of calling it total ducts, but it's causing some confusion, so I don't end up using it. Because in the loop, instead of where is it? This, we use total entities. So going through the total number of entities, I don't like this variable at all. So that's fine. We just use total entities again. They're the same value anyway, so. And we're only updating one, which is fine at the moment, but Now we can check for each entity if it's even has anything in. So if I take index, yeah, okay. We'll be able to combine some of these for loops together as well to simplify everything in a minute. You see, this needs to be the same. This is causing confusion. So if you have the same, okay, so if I equals 1, which is terrible, if, so I'm going to take this, do the same thing, entity, if the entity, yep, body index is not equal to uint 32 max, then we use entity index to get the position. Kind of, I'm close, but this is not quite right. Because that assumes that there's entity index. Okay, so we've got to assume that all colliders are... Oh yeah, Kahalia, something to mention as well about graphics. It's good to learn graphics theory on top of just Vulkan. I wouldn't say that as a super high priority at the beginning at all. Sorry, I'm gonna break stream a minute, but a good book that I've read or reading is, if you're unfamiliar with maths as well, this is a really good series. Foundation of game engine development, and this sounds a little less. So he only has 2 at the moment. He doesn't have the others. But if you're unfamiliar with maths, when it comes to like how you actually do maths in game engines, fantastic book. I've read all this. This is all graphics theory, so it doesn't go out as date as fast as, like, say, Vulkan 1.1 or whatever. He hasn't done these yet. There are, you don't have to get this book. There is real-time rendering, I think it's called. Book. I can't remember. I'll get it up. It's got. Yeah, this one. This one is again graphics theory. Both of these are fine if you want to learn both, but yeah, it's a good idea as well when you. I know there's like 1,000 things to learn when it comes to this stuff, but it'll help you out. This is just theory though. Like, there's no like Vulkan code in this, and if there is code, it's like pseudocode. It's like this is how you would do it in GLSL, but there would be no way to implement it. So you'll be able to write better GLSL code if you understand this stuff. But I've read these 2 chapters. I haven't read the rest, and so far it's so good, but it's something I'm slowly working through. It's a very slow process. They probably likely cover the same stuff, but I'm not entirely sure. This might cover some of the stuff that's supposed to be covered in the next book, but I don't know. I've never read that other one. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. Just came into my mind then. Anyway. So what do I want to do? So we have, I'm going to say that if this exists, these two exist together. These are coupled. But there's no way of doing that at the moment. Yeah, because then we use the entity index. Whoops, not that. Yeah, that's the for loop could be separate. We could be going backwards for our for loop if we needed to. What is this? Entity data. Sure. So this is updating the entity data. I think what I can do now is that. Delete this. And now we've simplified our code. And we don't have that horrible if statement in that just has like a total. Right, so total entities, again, we need to do the same check. Yeah, no problem, yeah. Yeah, the stuff in that like graphics theory book is like stuff you would learn if you went to university to learn this stuff, you know? So it's, it starts off, it's not like super basic, but it's not super advanced either. Like if it's his first year of undergrad, you'd be going through that book. All the way to probably, you with either of these two books, you'd be going through like the whole, like there would be a lot in this. There's a lot to chew on, it's a huge book. Oh, look at that, it's got some free chapters in. There you go. That's cool. Yeah, just grab some free chapters there. So you can do some maths if you need to. So yeah, this book though, just the maths book, it assumes less knowledge. Like it assumes you don't know what a vector is, like a mathematical vector, not like a C++ vector. So it's a little bit nicer to go through if you're brand new. So anyway, we want to go through our entities. I know it seems weird, but nothing would make me happier if you became like a fantastic graphics programmer in the future. So yeah, I'm rooting for you. Okay, so we want to loop through this only when we have a collider. So again, we can if now once we've done this, we can start abstracting things. Finally, this will make things so much easier. We need to grab the entity, which we did with the const ref, which is efficient. Because it's not huge, but we're not going to modify it, and we only need a reference really. If debug index is not equal to uint32 max, then we want to update the GPU data, because this actually is quite small in comparison to how many entities exist. Now the question is, can I combine these two? I think I can. Yeah. So this time though, we want to put this inside the for loop, because we are updating the I hope this makes sense to the compiler, to the GPU, because we're updating the GPU, then we're drawing, and then we're updating the GPU again. I don't know if that's efficient technically. Alright, we'll come back to that. This might not be the best way of doing it. Either way, we've simplified things. Likely want to put this above the here. So we have the position. Yeah, and if I was in your shoes as well, I would stick with C++. Sorry, I'm going back to this again. C++, and I wouldn't worry about graphics theory right away. But once you've got your footing with some Vulkan stuff, then you can start diving. Then it'll start going into graphics theory. Will make more sense of what you're doing. Hello, I'm Mab Games. How you doing? Hope you're having a great weekend. Currently just refactoring my code to try and make it a little less buggy or bug prone, and talking about how to become a good graphics programmer at the same time. So yeah, we be vibing. So we're almost there, I think. I wonder if there's anything less to modify. Yeah, we can start abstracting this soon, which is nice. In fact, I'm going to reorder this if I can. Actually, let's just see what ends up happening. In fact, I'm going to change the colliders to have the incorrect model just for now, because the model is it's going to be so big that it's going to surround the whole screen, so I won't be able to see what's going on. Because yes, I've incorrectly sized these to huge, and so for now we'll just, this is just to make sure I've not made any mistakes. I likely don't need to do this if I just assign them. I'll come back to that. It's not that important immediately. Let's just see if this builds. I might have broke something. I really hope I haven't, because all I've done is move stuff about. Okay, that's fine. That's not too bad. We're just... the value is... Excuse me? Can I see what the value of this is? Oh, interesting. This is junk. This is way bigger. Okay. What I think I need to do then is... I'm just going to be explicit with this and build a default constructor. And just... I'll set them all to this, actually. Because it's going to complain. It's going to give me a warning if I don't do this for everything. Which is fine. Whatever. Model index. Oh, come on. Pressing the wrong keys. Yeah, model index, model index. Don't do that. Debug index. And I don't know if I can construct this to be... yeah, what's... It has a default constructor, but... Oh, brilliant. Invalid. Don't need to do anything. It'll have an invalid ID without any of the asserts. Get rid of this. Okay. Now, browse operation. Round macro will fail. Consider. Oh, okay. That's a Visual Studio R issue. Not sure what that means. I love that attitude. Yeah, we will be fantastic programmers, graphics programmers. We just have to stick at it 100%, 100%. Just getting better than the day before. That's all that matters. Doesn't matter where we're at now. I made a mistake. This is why abstracting stuff makes sense. Okay, so that was a easy mistake to make, but eventually we'll abstract all this so it makes sense. I might even construct, like build a big class that has just data inside. I wonder if that's likely what I'm going to do actually, yeah. So entity's probably going to have all these structures inside them. I think that's what I probably want to do. Because the debug renderer and the debug data, there's another one I'm missing. Models, yeah. Let's move this up as well. Okay. Right. Before we do that, we need to make sure this is working. Okay. And we have junk again. What entity were we in? 2. I'm confused why this isn't set to a max value for the total number of entities. Because that's why we're getting this error. Entity 2 comes through, it says, okay, yeah, I have this in, but I also have junk for the second value. The problem is, though, it's like, I want this to be default initialized to a value, but it's not being default initialized to a value on construction. And that is some C++ stuff. Nothing to do with Vulkan, nothing to do with anything else. Right, okay, so when we construct an entity, let's just take these one step at a time. The entity array is allocated. It's possible that my particular... okay, so here's a lesson. I think what's happening here is there's a difference between initialization and allocation. They're not the same thing. When it comes to like heap allocation, it's not quite right. What am I trying to say? It's not initialization. It's initialization versus something else. But anyway, when you malloc something instead of using new, there is an extra step that new does for you. It runs the constructor of an object. So when you do new equals something, when you use malloc, it doesn't run the constructor. And I think what's happening here is we're allocating the space for these entities, but the constructor isn't running, so this doesn't do anything. None of what I've typed in does anything, which means we have to be a bit more explicit, which is fine. So for basically here, we need to I equals debug renderer uint32. That's why we're getting junk values in our debugger. We should be getting a nice 42 something. I don't know what this number is. 100,000 million. So 4 billion. 4,294 million, etc. But if we're getting something else, like it's even, yeah, we were getting junk earlier. So I think that will fix the issue, but we'll see. If not, we'll keep debugging. Yeah. Yep. Right. We are making nice progress. I'm glad that worked. Found our bug. So this is effectively, we're building the scene. This code. This is like, I've loaded the level from the level editor thing. This is all just like demo code. The entity data, where's the entity data set? Okay, so there. Yeah, we need to put all this inside entity, I think. Now, I think I need to make a new file with entity in it. And just have one big entity struct. I don't know if that's efficient in memory though. Don't I want to index into arrays of structures? That's the whole point of this. So I need to, they're all free floating arrays at the moment. I just need to organize them in a way that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure what the performance penalty is of putting just all the arrays in one struct are. There is almost no point of keeping track of the entity index if I do that. I've likely forgotten something about data-oriented design. I'm going to trust my former self and say I want these indices rather than the actual arrays themselves. Meaning that these entities, these arrays need to be separate, but they need to be separate and accessible, I think, in a way that's like not messy like we currently have. Okay, let me think. Architecture, how to do the architecture. We store these just in the stack of main, which, sure. How do I want to access these in the future though? Do I want a meta struct? That's not entity related. Let's think. I'm just trying to think about how to organize arrays that are just floating around. Because if they're only tied to the entity by an index, where do I put the sub arrays? I guess like these guys. Oops. Like, do I put them in their own file? Do I just throw the array? Because I need to allocate them, so I need to put them somewhere. I can't just have the arrays. It's not like a singleton where it's just arbitrary. No. What would I want to do here? I want to do the simplest thing and then worry about the complexity later. So there's no... I don't need to systemize any of this. So... Effectively, when I need to create an entity, I need to also create the other things. That's the actual thing. So it's not necessarily important where the data is stored. It's more important that when I create an entity, all the other data gets filled in. So everything else. That's the tricky part. What I'm thinking of doing is at the very least making a struct that returns. Where do I put these? Where do I put these arrays? This is why you should know your C++. Not that I don't know C++. This is just exactly why I say study C++ beforehand, because you'll be able to answer these questions better and faster, and you won't trip yourself up, or Rust or whatever you're using. It doesn't have to be C++, or C, D, who knows what, whatever. Right, so let me go back to my sample project, which is good I have, but I want to basically tie these together. Now, obviously, the simplest solution is just to, oops, I don't know what to call this. Call it game object. And what's in here is all these. That's what's in there. And when we create game objects, not entities. The game object class, struct in this case, takes in these fellas. So when you go void, I'll just type void because there's going to be arguments in a minute. Create entity boom, right? And instead of a for loop for just 10 arbitrary things, we just each entity gets its own and the ith value is just the last element in the array plus 1. So the era, yeah. So entities, this will just be size t, new index, and everything kind of gets tied together, right? And then we take the object. Oh yeah, I'll come back to that. the debug renderer's difference. If yeah, sure. If so Boolean is collision, is rigid body, I don't know, is collidable. As it is solid, I guess, for now. Is solid. If that's true, then we also push back the debug renderer, whoops, which takes in say current color equals yellow. Doesn't really matter, but I'll construct it to something else. And the entity also needs to take in the it also needs the what is it called? New entity, sorry, new entity needs the debug index, which is currently just new entity still. New index. And yeah. So when we access these guys, which are allocated on default construction of the game object, thing is, I need to kind of like, these need to be separate. This makes sense. This is how I would do it in my code. But I kind of need to have these kind of like accessible and allocated. What's the convenient way of doing this? I think I'm going to do this even if... Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're allocated once. We have a debug renderer index thing. We have new index. I'm just going to do it like this. This makes a lot of sense. So the entity has, what even is this now? It's almost not even an entity. It's just indexes. It's a meta struct that indexes into these at arbitrary values, which is fine. Effectively, I've pulled out the data from this, so it's separate. Everything's separate. Okay, this makes sense. And this means we can do a lot of different stuff. And if it's solid, then we assume it has collision, and it has a debug renderer component, which is good. Yes, we are still watching. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Meaning that let's finish this off. We don't need this anymore. So the idea is we go game object. So we don't want to create more than one of these. So this is definitely a singleton. Singletons are a pain in the neck. Just move this out the way a minute. And let's see if I can remember how to do this off the top of my head. Cool. I'm just going to do the rule of 4 real quick. We're not going to do anything complicated. See if I can remember them off by heart. Game object, const. Nope, const. Oh my goodness, const game object reference right hand side. Delete. That's the copy constructor. And then it's void. Actually, let's do it properly. Reference operator equals const game object reference right hand side equals delete. Delete. Next. Same deal. Just remove the const and add 2 different. We need a ref. Ref. Get rid of the const. That doesn't exist. And do you return a const? I can't remember. I don't know. No, it's not an RF, is it? It doesn't really matter. I don't think the return type cares. It's the funct. This is what it cares about. It only cares about this. So you can actually leave this as void. Then we need game object. Instance return. Oh, give me a minute. Game object instance static. That's what it needs to do. Static. I swear it needs to be a reference. I mean, you could do it like this, I guess. There's a better way of doing this. It's like cleaner. And this needs to be a pointer or a reference. How do I? There is a way of doing this clean. I will just get the syntax right. Just give me a minute. I want to default construct this. Get rid of that. What am I missing? Is it literally just make it on a stack? I can't remember. I think that's it. Yeah, I think it's, if you get it right, it's dead simple. And then, oops. Instance. Oh, set dirt. What I call it? Create entity. Is solid equals, give me a second, true. What are you complaining about? A non-static member reference must be. Yeah, give me a sec. I've got a little bit something wrong here. I just can't quite remember. Ah, couldn't quite get it in the off the top of my head, off the top of the dome. So, I've already written this before. So, it's in application, which is in here. What do you do again? I've forgotten. That's what you're supposed to do. The reference is second. That's what you do. And yeah, you make this a pointer. And then it's like not quite done though. What's the rule of 4 again? Have I done that right? I'm doubting myself now. It is a reference, okay. Anyway, so this one. I think it's these. If I do this, I bet it's just go away. Give me a second. No, give me a second. Oh, what did I do? I'm missing something. What am I missing? It's dead simple as well. There's one thing I've got wrong. Sorry, I'm not talking very much. I'm just trying to, my brain is like, I'm not annoyed or anything, it's just like, it's like, I've literally missed one syntactical thing that you need to do. And I've forgotten it. How embarrassing. Alright, let's just go on, whatever. Takes you to Bing. What the heck's this mean again? Non-static member reference. Oh, you need to make everything static. Can you make... That needs to be static too. I don't know what IntelliSense is telling me now. Everything's static. Does this need to be static? Like, make everything static? Okay, that was it. Now question. What? Right. Now I'm kind of curious now. Can these be static? They don't change for each object. Because that is true. I don't want to change ink. Yeah, I missed the word static. That's literally all I missed. And then, yeah, let's go with this. Next question is to figure out, can you entities, can you do that? Are you allowed? Now obviously this is ugly as hell. You can type def this to look way prettier, which I probably will. And change this to models. Let's just see what happens. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. Had a bad feeling. Yeah. A singleton with the vectors I don't think works. And you can't call this because it's not a static function. And in my code, how true is that? It's not true. That's tricky. What I could do though is, I wonder. Now order initialization is, you got to be careful with this. But if this was in a different file, anonymous namespace, can you just throw the things in there? Access them raw. The only problem is I can't access them now outside of the... So you can't do this. Sorry, I'm doing so much thinking at the moment. It's like my I'm really happy with the amount of work I'm putting in. Don't get me wrong, and I'm very much enjoying the stream. But I just hope it's not extremely boring. Me tackling some architectural coding issues, because I've got to be careful with coding architecture. You can absolutely tank your performance if you get this wrong. It's honestly the biggest reason why games come out and they're not very performant. It's the biggest reason if it's nothing to do with the graphics card itself. It's not to do with like you know, I don't know, they've made the graphics inefficient, like the actual shaders and stuff. If they mess up the architecture or make it convoluted, it slows everything down. That's cool. Yeah, Vulkan is exciting, 100%. I'm enjoying myself a lot. I just I just don't want to be like boring everyone. That's only my only concern. I want it to at least be a little bit educational, but yeah, you can end up making your program extremely slow if you get this wrong. So it is important that I try and think about this. Because once you've written, it's hard to pull out as well. That's the other problem. It's not something. Let's just say I make a whole game based on this architecture that I've decided on. If it goes wrong, if it's poorly thought out, then you end up building a bad piece of architecture. It's just more like general software engineering rather than what is it called? Game engine development. But you know, I could go into a lot of opinions about this, like how patterns aren't necessarily the best option. Like patterns attempt to solve these type of architectural issues, but it's, if you don't think about the data, which I'm really thinking about, like how to transform this data efficiently, then you end up just kind of taking a bad solution off the shelf rather than like the appropriate solution. And maximum flexibility and performance is what I'm after. So I think what I'm gonna do is not have game objects. I know I cranked out this, but what I'm gonna do is, because I'm not building an API for people, what I'm going to literally do is we're going to have a free floating function that creates objects, and then we're just going to be able to access these Now I have to be careful to make sure that when I do this, I don't make a mistake. I don't do something stupid like try to update. I don't try to access entities without creating them or something. But I think this is appropriate for my use case. We have arrays. They are allocated. Let's just see if this works. We put them on the... Yeah, that makes sense. Let's make a load. Yeah, cool. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to have all the data in one place. We're going to have arrays that are in static, like just free floating. And then we're going to have we're going to have functions that just build on them. Yes, I could technically access entity data or something. Or render data and it not be there because I'm being stupid, but then I could just like abstract this out, make it better. Yeah, that will at least make things easier for me. And then because I've left it really flexible, I can make it more complicated later. Oh, I'm almost out of time. Dang. Oops. That's what I needed. And well, at least I got to remember the rule of 4, rule of 0, and rule of 20 billion or whatever. So yeah, we want in... Where do I want to put this? Application, maybe? Or game? I'll put this in just like here. It's definitely nothing to do with graphics. This is just organizing data. So effectively I've spent probably like half an hour coming up with the simplest solution. But what should I call this? But it, you know, it's sometimes you need to think about it. Entity? I don't know. Entity. I don't really know. The name's unimportant, really. It's just I might change my mind to game object or something. Control B. Nope. In the future. So yeah, I'll just put it here until we need an extra folder. Yes. Let's throw this in our CMake. And yeah, then we can get back to what we were doing. Alan is part of the Void project, so we have physics, we have application, we have main. Yep. So we just need entity.hpp and entity.cpp. I forgot the source. Source slash. All right. That should be that. Okay. And once we've done that, we should have 2 files ready to go. Okay, it's 5 o'clock where I'm from, so that is where I'm going to call it, gang. I hope everyone's continues to have a brilliant weekend. I will work on this off stream. I think I'm pretty much in the flow, so hopefully main gets less cluttered in the future and you see a nice new push, so you can actually see some code that doesn't look like you want a vom in the future. So yeah, I will say, yeah, this is it. And also thank you for anyone who liked the stream. Thank you for anyone who chatted. I hope I was at least a little bit entertaining, a little bit helpful. Yeah, so I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next one. All right.